how to create a banner that works for the new Instagram grid size. Instagram recently changed the size of the grid. As you can see here, this is the old square grid that we're used to ever since Instagram started, which is square. And now we have this new taller grid, which I find more pleasing to the eye, and it crops less of your content, especially since we are already posting taller Instagram feeds than square, and also a lot of reels. So the only thing is that for those of us that love doing little banners for the top of our profile, those 3 across banners, it got a little trickier because the new Instagram grid crops a little of either side of your images. So how do you still create those? It's still possible, but it's a little trickier. Let's go over it. And as you can see here, I created one that works for both grids, even the old square view, which some people still have it. And also it's what people see when they go on the desktop, and the new taller version, which is what most people have right now. So first of all is how to create split elements. This has changed a little bit. And here on top, I'm giving you an example of what the margins for the square preview would look like. So if anyone don't have the update and they are looking at your feed through the desktop, they would see square. So this would be the margins, like you see top and bottom would get cropped. And then the 3.4 ratio preview, which is the new taller grid, you would crop the little sides. So if you want to make it, it's just what I recommend, something that works for both views, you would kind of follow these guidelines here, these margins down here, which would be 1080 in height by 1013 on either side, because it does crop a little bit of the 1080 when it's the taller version. What you would do, because of this little crop here, it won't work anymore if I want to put myself in split in between 2 images, which is kind of fun, right? I used to do this all the time. It's like my photo get a little closer to the edge here, and then you see maybe my arm later on the second slide. That is not doable anymore, because if anyone is viewing this and you're viewing this on the taller grid, the sides are going to get cropped. So a little bit of your arm would get cropped. And even if you calculate for that and then you don't put anything on the parts that get cropped, or you even like stretch out your photo and your arm a little more and then assuming this will get cropped, it's really hard to find that exact place over to put it. And it would always look funky if you go to the desktop, or for anyone that has the square grid, because some people still see all your content in square. So what you would do, and the only way that I found a solution for creating split elements, is to create long lines or bars, like I did on the link in bio part and here on the title, creating content for the new grid size part. And that's the only way that you can do split elements, because what happened, you just make it a little longer than it needs to be. And if a little bit gets cropped here, it's not a big deal. It's just that people that see square, it's going to be that element a little longer. And then people that see the tall grid, which is most of the people, you're going to have that little bit of crop here. So the parts outside of the red lines are cropped. But when the red line gets together with this red line, the elements still have continuity. And I'm going to show you again on the example of the one that I posted. You can see that the 3 of us here are a little further away from the edge of the image than here, but it still works. And the same with these grids here, with these images of the tall grid, which is what I'm really promoting here. So again, we talked about we can do split elements if they are just straight lines. So they would work with like an arrow, would work like, you could do like a long arrow all across. You could do those bars that I did here. And if you play with more than one bar like I did here, it even looks a little more, seamless than if you do them separately. And then how to use gradients. So the other hack that I found is that if you want to use gradients in your background, you can use top to bottom gradient. And that's the same idea, that the continuity will work that way. It'll make it seamless. But if you use different gradients, because in Canva or any other place that you're designing, you can change how your gradients look. So some gradients are not like perfectly top to bottom and they go from one color to the next. They could go side by side. They could go top left to bottom right. There are many ways. And if you're using like an image as your gradients, that gets even trickier. So what I recommend is if you want to use gradients, use from top to bottom, because as you can see here, it's still going to have a seamless transition. If you do use them other ways, it's not going to have a seamless transition. Not to say that it needs to be perfect. I think a grid that even if you mess up your backgrounds, like in the gradients, it'll still look pretty pretty. But if you do want to have lots of attention to detail, you would do a gradient from top to bottom or just a plain background like I did here. And then the other question that I get a lot is that if you should make these as a separate image or one big image. So I recommend you make it separate. If you make it separate, since we already have so much limitations in what elements can be split, it's pretty easy to just split one big, line like that. You just copy and paste into the next page. And then you can push to the side or to the other side and make it longer as it needs to be longer. But it's much easier than creating one image and then having this extra step to go in an image splitter. Canva does have in the Canva apps a great image splitter. It's still an extra step you do not need, especially since you can't really do that much on these split elements anymore. Like it used to be much harder to design a carousel already split if you're splitting little cute elements and things like that. So that was easier to do in one big image. But now that you really can have those split elements other than just some bars and maybe a line and an arrow, it's much easier to just do it in a separate images. So what I would recommend is that you create 4:5 ratio. In Canva, you can just go to Instagram post 4:5, or you can do custom size 1080 by 1350 pixels. And then you just design accordingly. If you're doing a gradient, just copy the same gradients and apply to all three images. And then if you're doing a bar, you would do it in the first image, copy and paste on the second. And even if you copy and paste this on the second, it will start right in the middle of the image. You just stretch it out to this size, stretch it out to the other side. And this one is the same, like it'll be maybe here, you stretch it out to the side. And then I did the other one in the bottom. You can do that too, like as a shadow or something. So you just copy and paste that, and it's pretty easy to design in separate images. Or if you want help, we have a pack of 13 different designs already split for you of these banners that work for both the grids. The one that you saw that I customized for my brand was this last one here. I'm going to show you how I customize it for my brand, and you can see how it can look pretty different. And you can apply any brands that are yours. And these all come with a little video of how to customize. But see, this is one also from this pack. And this is how I used it for my brand. That third one that I showed you that had the girl in the hats, I replaced with us. I put our photos here, put our logo in the corner. And then I did this grid like sideways a little bit, a little different than I had it on the template. But you can see this background element in the back, which ties everything together pretty nicely. So that's one from our pack. It's this last one here. And this is how a good example of how you can customize these for your brand. Doesn't matter if it's bold, if it's colorful, if it's monochromatic, if it's more moody. You can use these for your brand pretty easily. And they're all beautiful. I hope you enjoy it. Thank you. Follow and subscribe for more.